Hi, you guys. Today we're going to look at the story called The Year of the Perfect Christmas Tree by Gloria Houston. Pictures by Barbara Cooney. This is one of my all-time favorite children's stories. It takes place in the early 1900s, around 1918. Which means people were going through a tough time. There was a world war going on, so lots of families were apart. The Spanish flu was traveling its way around the globe and making people sick, so there were lots of hard times that people were going through. And this is a beautiful thing that happens in the middle of some tough times. So here we go with The Year of the Perfect Christmas Tree. It was getting towards Christmas in the valley of Pine Grove. The wise folks said the old woman in the sky was picking her geese, for the Appalachian mountains lay blanketed with snow. The road wound like white ribbons around the misty blue ridges, tracked by the runners of wagons, sleds, and sleighs. Occasionally, an automobile chugged its way through the silence. Across the ocean, the great war raged, but in the valley, all was at peace. It was getting on towards the Christmas Ruthie would never forget. The Christmas when the village almost did not have a Christmas tree. It happened this way, 'cause Ruthie told me so. "Come on, my pretty little one," Papa had said one day in early spring. "It's time to choose the Christmas tree for the village church this year." "But Papa, Christmas isn't going to come for a long time," said Ruthie. "These trees are just now blooming." "We must choose a special tree and mark it for the coming year. It's the custom in our village," said Papa, "for one family to give all the folk in the village and up every hill and holler a Christmas tree for Pine Grove Church. This year it is our turn. Some years a timbering man will give a fat round laurel from the northy coves, the kind the Outlanders call a rhododendron. Other years the holler folk may bring a cedar to spread its fragrance throughout the village church." "What kind of tree will we have, Papa?" said Ruthie. "We shall have a balsam Christmas tree, my pretty little one," said Papa. "The balsam grows up in the rocky crags where only the venturesome man may go. The balsam is a perfect tree because it grows up high, near to heaven." So Papa and Ruthie rode on old Pitey's back across the high cliffs and along the crags looking for the perfect balsam Christmas tree. They rode and rode from early morning until the sun was high in the sky. Finally they saw it, growing on the edge of a high cliff on Grandfather Mountain, alone with no other trees around it. Its green color was dark and rich. It was the perfect shape and size, its tip-top pointing up to heaven. "This will be our perfect Christmas tree," said Papa. "And as is the custom, this selfsame year you get to be the heavenly angel in the village Christmas play. It is fitting that you should mark the Christmas tree." So Papa took the red ribbon from Ruthie's coal-black curls. He lifted her high in his strong arms. "Tie this to the tip-top," he said, and then he kissed the dimple on each of Ruthie's cheeks. The summer came, and Papa was called away to be a soldier. He went to fight in a war that was far across the sea, where many people had gone. That year, the timber was not cut, so Mama had no money to buy coffee or sugar or cloth for new dresses and clothes. Mama and Ruthie did their best. They drank peppermint tea sweetened with honey. Mama lowered the hems of Ruthie's dresses to make them last longer, and she embroidered pretty flowers over any tears or mends she had to do. Together they tended their little garden, growing the vegetables that they got to eat. And every night, Mama tucked Ruthie into her little bed and listened as she said the same prayer. "Please send my papa home for Christmas," Ruthie whispered, "and please have old St. Nicholas bring me a doll with a beautiful dress, the color of cream, all trimmed with ribbons and lace." One day that fall, when the dried corn shocks rustled in the breeze, a package came from Papa. In it were soft silk stockings for Mama and blue satin hair ribbons for Ruthie. There was a letter, too. "I'll be home for Christmas," the letter said. "The war is finally over. The armistice was signed today." The days passed. Each day Ruthie ran home from school as fast as the deer that fed by the stream. "Is Papa home?" she called as she ran up the steps. But every day Mama said, "Not today, maybe tomorrow. He's gonna come on the train." The days passed. Ruthie listened for the squeaky whistle of the little train that the mountain folk called the Tweetsie as it chugged through the valley and up the mountainside. One day Mama and Ruthie harnessed old Piety to the sled and went to the station. But when the other men from the village stepped down from the train, Papa wasn't with them. He wasn't on the train. Soon there was only one more day till Christmas Eve. Over at the school, Miss Jenny and her pupils were practicing for the Christmas play. The children sang an Appalachian lullaby, and Miss Jenny chose the boy and girl who would be Mary and Joseph. And then she called Ruthie's name. "This year you get to be the heavenly angel," Miss Jenny said. "This is the year your papa will give the church its Christmas tree." Miss Jenny helped Ruthie climb up to stand on the teacher's chair so it would look as if she was up high in the sky. And Miss Jenny showed her how to hold her arms just so. "If you wear a dress with great big sleeves," said Miss Jenny, "it will look like you have angel's wings." "Mama, Mama," said Ruthie. She ran up the front steps that day. "I must have a new dress with great big sleeves because I am going to be the heavenly angel when Papa gives the Christmas tree." "Oh, my pretty young'un," said Mama, "I have no cloth to make a dress with great big sleeves, and I have no money until your papa comes home." Mama kissed the dimple in each of Ruthie's cheeks and hugged her daughter tightly. That night, the preacher from the Pine Grove Church knocked at the door. "Tomorrow's Christmas Eve, Miss Green," he said, "and Tom's gotten at home from the war. Chad McKinney has been saving a prime cedar in his bottomland for Christmas next. He'd leave cut the tree this year." "No, this is the year our family will give the tree," said Mama. "Tom chose it before he went away to war." "I had hoped you'd heed my wish," said the preacher, "'cause the church must have a Christmas tree when tomorrow comes. Tom is as good as his word, and our family will give the tree this year," said Mama bravely. Late that night, Mama woke up Ruthie. They dressed in their warm coats, hats, and mittens. Mama hitched old Piety to the big sled Papa used to haul fire logs down from the ridges. The moon shone silver as Mama and Ruthie made their way up the hill. Ruthie carried the lantern for them. As they came to the dark woods, the winter moon made strange shadows on the snow. "Mama, I'm afraid," said Ruthie. "No need to be afraid," said Mama. "We're off to get the perfect balsam Christmas tree." And Mama began to sing. So Ruthie joined in the song and soon forgot to be afraid. Mama and Ruthie led old Piety and the sled up the hills and across the ridges, but they could not find the tree. "Papa says the balsams grow high on the rocky crags up near heaven where only a venturesome man will go," said Ruthie. "The rocky crags," said Mama. "Whew, we have a long climb ahead." So they slowly led old Piety along the ridge to the highest crag on Grandfather Mountain. They could see the village sleeping in the valley far below. Finally, at the edge of the highest cliff, they saw the balsam tree standing alone. "There it is, Mama," Ruthie cried. "See, there's my ribbon bow tied to the tip top." Ruthie ran up the rocky crag as Mama and old Piety followed her. The blade of Papa's axe shone in the moonlight as Mama lifted it high. Thwack! Crack! The sounds echoed through the rocks and the hills. Then Mama picked up the saw and said, Take hold of the end, my pretty one. Pull as hard as you ever can. Mama pulled, Ruthie pulled, pull back and forth until the perfect balsam Christmas tree fell softly over into the snow. Ruthie and Mama lifted the tree onto the sled and they tied it there to secure it. Then they made their way down the ridge. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning, they sang joyfully. Through the soft snow they led old Piety to the church. Together they lifted the perfect balsam Christmas tree from the sled and stood it in the corner near the belfry wall. Just as the sun was rising over Doe Hill, they hurried home. Tucking Ruthie into her little bed, Mama whispered, "The folks shall have their Christmas tree, and you shall be the heavenly angel this year." Ruthie fell fast asleep, but Mama sat long by the firelight, sewing as fast as her nimble fingers could move. First, she cut the ribbons and lace from a wedding dress, the color of cream. From it, she fashioned a smaller dress with long flowing sleeves. Then she took a soft silk stocking, stuffed it with lamb's wool to shape it, and stroked it until it was smooth and round. She embroidered it with 2 blue eyes, little black curls, and made a dimple on each cheek. From the scraps of Ruthie's new dress, she made a tiny dress just like it, all trimmed with ribbons and lace. She dressed the stocking doll in the tiny dress. The sun was high in the winter sky when a knock came at the door. "Good Christmas Eve, Preacher Ollis," Mama said. "Do come in and sit a spell for yourself." "Did you hear the news about the Christmas tree?" the preacher said. "A wondrous balsam from up the high crags was found on the belfry porch this morning." Do tell, what a wonder," said Mama. "And that's not all. It's being told hereabouts that folk who live up on the holler heard angels singing high up on the ridge late into the night. And they were singing Christmas songs," said Preacher Ollis. Ruthie hid her face in her mama's patchwork quilt so the preacher could not hear her laughing. Daylight was fading when Mama helped Ruthie into the prettiest dress Ruthie had ever seen. It was made of the softest silk, the color of cream, all trimmed with ribbons and lace, and it had long flowing sleeves. "If you hold your arms just so," said Mama, "it will look like you have wings." At the church, the ladies of the valley had decorated the perfect balsam Christmas tree. Reflections of the tiny red candles in their shiny holders fastened to the tip of the branches shone in the windows. Tied to the lower branches of the tree were presents wrapped in pretty paper, and on the tip top was a tiny angel. The bell rang, and from up and down the river road and from all the hills and hollers, folks were coming to celebrate the Christmas tree. A choir of children sat by the organ. The 3 kings waited outside the belfry door, and behind the bed sheet curtain Mama helped little Mary put her doll to bed in the manger straw. Ruthie climbed up and stood on the preacher's big chair. The ladies pushed the bed sheet curtains back, and Ruthie could see herself in the dark church windows. She was very careful, as you can imagine, to hold her arms just so. In her beautiful dress, it really did look like she had wings. "Behold, I bring you tidings of great joy," said Ruthie, the heavenly angel. When the program was over, Ruthie went to sit with her Mama on the front pew, and Mama held her close. Then the 3 kings came walking down the aisle, carrying pails filled with Christmas treat bags, called a poke. Each bag contained a soft peppermint stick, some chocolate drops, an orange, and some hazelnuts, because all those things were very hard to come by back then. Behind the kings walked old St. Nicholas. He carried a sack of a goodie bag with him. Now, old St. Nick visited the Amen corner first. He gave each of the deacons, which were grown-ups, a lump of coal or a willow switch, and the folk in the church laughed. Then to all the children who'd misbehaved, old St. Nick gave a willow stick or a lump of coal as well. Ruthie had been good that year, so she got a treat bag instead. At last, it was time to call the names on the presents tied to the tree. Every child in the church received a present. Everyone, that is, except Ruthie. A quiet tear slipped down her dimpled cheek. Then one of the kings reached to the tip-top of the perfect balsam Christmas tree. He lifted the tiny angel down. "Why, Ruthie," said old Saint Nick, "this tiny angel looks just like you." And it did. The tiny angel was wearing a dress just like Ruthie's. It was made of softest silk the color of cream. It was trimmed with ribbons and lace, and the sleeves were long and flowing. It looked as if she had wings. The angel's curls were black as coal, and she had a dimple on each cheek. Ruthie hugged the tiny angel and kissed softly its silky cheek, which felt just like the silk stockings Papa had sent to Mama. The preacher said the benediction, and St. Nicholas wished to one and all a happy Christmas. Slowly the people began leaving the church. Mama and Ruthie walked out the belfry door. St. Nicholas was standing there. A man in an army uniform stood beside him. "And here's another present for you, little Ruthie," said St. Nicholas. But Ruthie had been so busy looking at the tiny angel, she didn't notice until strong arms picked her up. "Let me look at you, my pretty young'un," said Papa's voice, and he hugged Ruthie and Mama and the tiny angel all at the same time. The village folk gathered around the church steps. Someone from the village began to sing Silent Night. The folks in the village joined in, but Papa, Mama, Ruthie, and the tiny angel hardly heard. They just hugged each other some more. And since that time, every year for more than 60 years, a tiny angel has stood on top of a perfect balsam Christmas tree. She wears a dress of softest silk, the color of cream, all trimmed with ribbons and lace. The sleeves are long and flowing, and it looks as if she has wings. The angel has coal black curls and a dimple in each cheek, and that is how it happened. The Christmas of the heavenly angel and the perfect balsam Christmas tree. I know it because Grandma Ruthie told me so. This is a story about her grandmother, so it's a true story. It really happened.